For today's adventure, you're going to need a VR set, a Raspberry Pi, and one of these fancy. Let's see if I can see the number. There you go. One of these fancy infrared cameras, and a laptop. I just want to say thank you again to the Save It for Parts channel. Gabe, thank you for donating this great infrared sensor. So on the Raspberry Pi, the pins are pretty straightforward. We got, I think that's 3 volts in the yellow. We got blue on the ground, and then we got orange and green on those first few pins, which are probably for the SDL and SCA, which is what we got here. It's pretty straightforward. Okay, so on the Raspberry Pi side, we have this script that does two things. The first one part is that it basically reads the data from the infrared sensor. And then the second thing it does is it sends it out over a WebSocket to the Oculus. And so here I have the Oculus IP, but I guess we can start at the top. So here's a bunch of imports. Here's a function which basically sends the data once we have everything ready. Here's where we set up everything. So we set up the communication to the board. We set up the I2C communication class. We set some settings, stuff like that. Here we have a function which connects to the WebSocket. And so yeah, so while true, it tries to connect. So sometimes the connection will get dropped because it's Wi-Fi, so it's not perfect. And so basically this first while loop is just kind of constantly trying to connect and make sure that it's working. Then it's pretty simple. We get the frame, we reshape it. So basically it comes in like a 72 by 32 by 24, I believe. Um, and yeah, we got to reshape it into a line, and then we send that 700 and something by 1 uh, data packet over the WebSocket. And then we have some like exceptions to because it's going to be noisy, it's not going to be perfect. And yeah, then some just in case stuff doesn't work perfectly, and that's about it. It's not that complicated of a script. So here's the basic setup for Unity. We have delete everything, follow the regular guides for VR stuff on Unity. We're gonna have a few objects. We're gonna have the heat map display run object. We're gonna have the WebSocket server object. Heat map display run is going to have the heat map display script on it. WebSocket server is going to have the WebSocket initializer script on it. And then we're going to do the OVR camera rig. Again, if you're familiar with VR Unity, and if not, there are plenty of videos out there. The tricky part is going to be heat map plane script that's going to go on the center eye actor. Now, this heat map plane is basically a plane that sits in front of your eyes, and then that's where we're going to project all of the infrared stuff to. And then if you want, you can also have left hand and right hand stuff. And then you also want to set up OVR pass through, and there's plenty of videos on those on how to do that. So here we have the scripts. They are written in C#. There's the 3 main scripts: the initializer, the server, and the heat map display. Again, these are a bit more complicated because they're in C#, so it's not as intuitive, but basically, yeah, the initializer just kind of sets up the WebSocket and hangs on to just kind of a random object in your game. So yeah, you want to set up the WebSocket to 000 and then some port that you know is open. And then it's going to have this WebSocket server name. And it's basically just going to have one job, which is going to be heat map display, update the data, and then, it's going to start once that's ready to go. And then it just kind of updates, and if it quits, then it quits. The second part of that is the main chunk of that WebSocket server. And basically every time, you got this callback, I guess you want to call it, on message, and every time it receives a message, it's going to log the data, and then it's going to kind of do some data management, get everything ready, and it's going to pass it over to this IR data packet, and then call that back so that the heat map display can take it over. Heat map display. So yeah, you've got this material, the heat map material. That's a material that we put on our plane. We've got a texture for that as well. And yeah, we got to tell it what width and height to unfold the data into. We also have the min values and max values, so that we don't have to like set it ahead of time. It can just kind of figure itself out for the what temperatures we're going to be throwing at it because it's a bunch of floats. And so yeah, we initialize that texture. We put that heat map material as that texture, and then as this IR data information gets updated, then we go through, we unfold it, we do some flipping, and yeah, we set the max and min values, and then we map it to a certain color, and then we kind of map it onto that plane in front of our faces. And then yeah, I guess this is some more of that of putting that data in front of it onto the plane and making it so that it covers the whole plane and interpolates in between. So here is what you get out of it. Actually, it looks a lot nicer than this. The problem is the pass-through doesn't want to be recorded on the app. And by the app, I mean the Oculus Quest recording app. Um, Otherwise, you'd see like, everything around you and kind of like translucent here. But yeah, and then SideQuest used to be able to let you record the pass-through, but I guess not anymore. So yeah, you're just gonna take my word for it, or do it yourself. So I paused it here. I'm just gonna start the video again. Here's some of my old recordings. So here's the computer I'm looking up right now. So here is my light in the room. That's kind of warm. And then you can see my arm kind of pointing at the light. I'm like, hey, look, there's a light. So I look back down at the computer. This is my computer. Well, this is my laptop in front of me. Here's my computer. And then over here is the power supply for the computer. And it's kind of cool, like being able to look around the room and see what's warm and what isn't. I was kind of surprised. I actually didn't even realize my PC was on. So yeah, that's cool. And yeah, you can kind of change the colors if you want. Here's my arm again. I'm moving it around, just kind of waving, just pointing at things. And then the last thing I look at is my legs. Here's me sitting down, and you can see my legs are kind of warm too. I had shorts on to make sure that I could see them better.